they were, Bela Lugosi, the terrible monster up on the hill. So things like that, the Nosferatu, the hideously deformed, Count Orlok type, and got rid of the Tremere. Not really so much got rid of them as they weren't the first tier. They were a very specialized type of vampire, and one that didn't hit the kind of vampire boiled down experience. You ask a million different people about vampires, and only very rarely are you going to get, hey, vampires that are witches as well. But you'll always get, oh, they can turn into wolves, or oh, they're aristocrats, or things like that. So,
yeah, I didn't work on that directly, but I thought the Mekhet were a lot better as far as kind of embodying the dark scholar archetype than really a lot of the other things. It seems like you took kind of the Tremere and the Giovanni and the Malkavians and sort of put them on an operating table and took the best parts of them. So I thought that was a good decision overall.
Oh, thanks.
All right, what you got?
And two. First thing would be, we went from Masquerade, which had this very set, hard cosmology, got here's this game, yada, yada, yada. And now we've gone to very, very open cosmology. And I know how I feel about it from a player concept. How do you feel about it from a development concept of having it go from that set, this is the cosmology, this is how things have to flow, to, and maybe the circle of the throne are right, maybe they're not, maybe we're all down, yeah, so on and so forth. Yeah. The second one is for the older developers, for the Masquerade developers. Samuel Pate, really? That's his fault. That's it.
Yeah, Bill, you get to answer that one. That budget.
Blame the guy that's
wow,
not
that's
here.
a name out of the past there.
I guess going to the idea of separating a kind of one true way cosmology from an open-ended cosmology, it had its strengths and it had its weaknesses. And to me, one of the things that really drew me to Vampire the Masquerade was that kind of sense of initial damnation and Catholic guilt that meant that, all right, you're going to start this game and you're basically fucked from the start. What do you do from there? And when we set that aside for Requiem, that was in the interests of, again, like Will said, having a toolbox, having, hey, what do you guys want to make? And I thought that did storytellers a lot of service and that it opened a lot of opportunities to them. But it also took away, strangely enough, a lot of resonance, a lot of the things that initially drew me to Vampire. It was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ken Hite, who's another role-playing game writer, but he says that Catholicism is probably the greatest horror pantheon ever concocted. And it's true, and it's one of the things that made Vampire very scary up front, and that's what I liked about it. That it had
all of our Catholic fans have now just left our club. Thank you very much.
No Catholics were harmed in making this game. But we never had even in the days of Masquerade, the cosmology was never definite. We made it very clear that this is the dominant view among kindred, and there are definitely kindred who believe otherwise, and sometimes dramatically otherwise. The idea is that just in the world, there isn't a one true way. You have to look at all the cosmologies to get a good sense, see what the commonalities are between them to get a good sense of what is our human cosmology. And we did try to present that in Vampire. Here's the one that we'll put in the books we find the most fascinating, we think gives the most gameplay ideas, but we're going to give you a lot of other looks upon it. And to ever think that there is just one way, be it in the game or in real life, just doesn't work. And not talking about pigs, sorry.
Pirate guy.
Hi. In regards to, I've got one question basing on you guys have been hitting the first. I like the additional layer that the Covenants provided over the clans. The clans were a good start. But with my players, it's easy to get lost in the stuff. There's nothing to bring them together. And that's my hardest stuff is DSD or multiple domains, bringing them together because in city center, this city can be how they want to be, this city can be how they want to be. But how do I bring it together in a global game? That's my biggest problem. Do you guys have any means of solving that or suggestions of how we can solve that?
I do, but I don't think you'll be happy with the answer. In working with, I'm working on MMOs now, And in MMOs, the cardinal rule is to let the players do it. And I think that Requiem is a great game for live action because it gives people a chance to get together in groups and scheme against all those other groups. So as a storyteller, I think it's your responsibility to give them enough rope to hang themselves. They're going to create their own plot hooks, and they're going to, you know, put each other in dire peril. Let them do it. Let them do it. Take the cue from them.
Absolutely.
Take the cue from them.
Get as clear a statement as you can out of individual players or as covenants as to what it is that they want. The biggest regret that I have for sure is that the covenants didn't want enough of what the other covenants had. Right, not in an arch sort of level, right? That should be more personal. And so if you can get the players to, I mean, literally have them write it down on a note card and collect them from everybody. And then it could be as simple as whether or not you literally pass them out or whether or not you kind of assign them around. But you go, okay, well, this guy wants X, this guy wants a great ghoul, or he wants an army. Then you give the tools to create an army to somebody else that's in play somewhere. And now they're immediately interacting. Now they kind of have to. One of them has to go through the other one to get it. But the first step that you have to get is a clear statement from each of the players what it is that their characters want. And I mean, it can be material, it can be immaterial, but that should really be part of character creation, I think. It's knowing what it is that character's going after. And yeah, I mean, it can be just by anything. Maybe they're drowning in options. But
I would almost disagree there. I don't know that it's necessarily part of character generation or character creation as it is character growth. You know, once these people spend 6 weeks being the guy they are, they're going to have a much better idea of what they want to do than they did when they were just, you know, a handful of loose ideas, you know, when they came to your character generation table.
So I'm going to actually interject and put in a question of my own at this point that's a little more franchise oriented. The Vampire franchise did something really unique in the early 90s in that it was the first essentially in video game terms M-rated or and I wouldn't say, you know, adult-themed game that had a very, very broad appeal to women. And I would still to this day say there's no other role-playing game that's had quite the amount of female fans that Vampire has. And I'd be really interested to know, you know, with acknowledging that and realizing that so many women have gotten to playing the game in the franchise, how has that affected choices you made as developers, or has it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part?
Basically, you've got a large female audience, and how has that affected choices that you've made as a developer, or has it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, again, jumping back to my experience as a player, I have to say it's not just women that it managed to pull in. As a gay man, I found quite a bit more waiting for me in Vampire than I did in nearly any other RPG. We were just there. You know, and that was the first place that I found us. So, you know, my goal, at least as a creator and as a developer, has been to present as wide a tapestry as possible. You know, really, it's and that's at its core. I mean, we can extrapolate that in 100 different directions, but diversity, and not in the PC sense, but just having a broad variety of strange people with 100 different things that they want to do, few of which rarely coincide, being thrown into a tiny society that forces them to somehow deal with one another is fascinating and rife for drama. So, and that's just kind of been my focus as a developer, is keeping interesting things like that going.
Jen, I think you might have a somewhat unique perspective on this topic.
Yeah. One thing I will say that when I first picked up Vampire First Edition, like the actual softcover book, it seems very trivial to a lot of people, but the fact that every single pronoun in the book was not he actually made me sit up and take